Everybody, it's Wave Storm Tracking Team Meteorologist Ryan Hoke here. It is Thursday night. We're just a few days away from the eclipse. We've also got some information about the tornadoes that hit our area on Tuesday and a brand new Hokey Weather Fact for you here. It is 8:16 p.m. here on this Thursday night. And let's get right into it, shall we? We've got a lot of folks already joining us here this evening live on Facebook, on YouTube, and many other platforms that we serve, including our own Wave Weather app and Wave News app as well. You can see this live stream, Wave Weather, now on those platforms. All right, outside this evening, you'll notice all the cloud cover that we have around here. And yes, we've had some rain today. It's been cool. I mean, it's felt every bit like winter. We were about 20 degrees below normal today here in Louisville. It'll be nice to see the warmth return as we head into, of course, late in the weekend and into next week. Brandon Hobson's in here. Good Thursday evening to you. Scott Connor on YouTube says, I just got my solar eclipse glasses today. Elizabeth Powell is in the room as well. She says, good evening. We will, of course, get to more of your comments and more about the eclipse here coming up in just a short moment. I do want to address first what happened on Thursday. I know we are 2 days post this, but this was such a monumental tornado event for our area that we are still kind of cleaning up, going through what happened, figuring out what happened, and looking back at indeed what occurred, not only by the weather, but what the National Weather Service did in response to this as well here. You'll see the tornado warnings and the severe thunderstorm warnings in yellow, tornado warnings in red here, that were issued throughout the day there on Tuesday. And this includes both the morning and the evening round of storms, afternoon really round of storms that we saw there. I do want to circle a couple interesting things here. You'll see 1, 2, 3 tornado warnings that are kind of angled toward the south and east here. Those were from the morning storms that resulted in the Chaplin, Kentucky tornado here. And of course, you'll see all the tornado warnings in Indiana and of course, north central Kentucky, including Louisville there into Oldham and of course, Henry counties as well. And that was all the afternoon round. But in total, we got about a dozen tornado warnings around here within the 34 counties of Wave Country that we serve here. It's just a very busy day for us. Some folks were gapped. Of course, Southern Kentucky mainly made out pretty well. At least our Southern Kentucky counties did. You guys didn't get many warnings, if any at all, depending on your location. And another spot that was lucky, too, was like from Shelbyville to Southern Jefferson County to Northern Bullitt County, including Shepherdsville and toward Frankfort. You guys didn't see any warnings at all either. But when we go and see what exactly happened here from the storm surveys from the National Weather Service, the damage, of course, was done. If you have not joined us since about midday yesterday, we've had some updates to this here. And one, of course, being that Harrison County did see an EF1 tornado, 95-mile-per-hour winds. This was just north and west of Lanesville across I-64 from that area there. It took a patio chair and threw it from a swimming pool at this house that you kind of see marked here, 133 yards into the woods east. So that's kind of part of why it was an EF1 designation there. Another new thing that happened just today is the National Weather Service officially connected up the tornado damage that was in Clark County, Jefferson County, and Oldham County together into one sort of Clark and Jefferson and northwest Oldham County tornado there. That's an EF2 with 120-mile-per-hour winds. They are still surveying this storm damage out there in Oldham County. So we don't know how far east in Oldham County it goes. There's a golf course it went to, and it may have stopped there. But the National Weather Service has to see if there's a more than 2-mile break in that damage. According to the NWS Louisville here, if there's more than a 2-mile break between this tornado damage here and the tornado damage that they found in Henry County, those will indeed be 2 separate tornadoes. And based on the location of the damage and what we remember from the storms that day, at least we think these will stay as 2 separate tornadoes. We think that the Louisville, Oldham County, Prospect, Clark County tornado, we think that kind of occluded, and then a new one formed on that same storm in Henry County. We'll see what happened there, but of course that damage in Henry County, EF1 tornado, 110-mile-per-hour winds went from near Jericho to near Henry County High School, just south of Newcastle. And finally, the 4th tornado out of this deal was down in eastern Nelson County. This was east of Bloomfield, near Chaplin, Kentucky. That was an EF1 tornado with 95-mile-per-hour winds just north of the Bluegrass Parkway. You see it down there. So right now, things are a lot calmer today. That is fantastic. But you'll notice the rain showers are still moving through. This has been kind of a showery, ugly, windy day. We've had some breaks in the clouds, giving us some good sunshine, but that hasn't helped a whole lot as temperatures were only in the 40s. So that's kind of what we got going for us right now, is a 20-degree below normal day. No, I did not say 20 degrees below zero. I said below normal. Normal around here is the 60s this time of year. We were in the 40s today. All those showers are pinwheeling around an area of low pressure that continues to push east across the eastern seaboard there. And for us, we will see lessening impacts from this as we go throughout the next day or so. Things eventually will get a little bit calmer as we go through the first part of the weekend. Want to take a little break here and get to some of your comments before we go into more about the forecast, the eclipse, a Hokey Weather Fact, and a whole lot more. Let's see here what we've got. Kelsey Fox on Facebook here. I'm also wondering about the Buckner one. We had so much terrible damage. Yes, Kelsey, Buckner, Oldham County, a lot of damage out there. National Weather Service is probably going to get to this tomorrow, and they will see if that connected up with the tornado in the Prospect area, or if it was separate, or if it was straight line wind damage. They're going to figure out what happened there. We have had out of these storms some 100 mile per hour straight line wind damage that happened near the UK campus. Some of you may have seen that video of the student getting blown over by the straight line winds that was all over social media at UK. That video was part of the review effort for those straight line winds, by the way, which is crazy to say the least here. Kathy Scott says her daughter's electricity just came back on in Newcastle this morning at 5 a.m. No surprise, when a tornado kind of cuts a county in half like that, it's going to topple over some of those main transmission lines, and that's what the power crews had to deal with. First off, thank you to our line workers who work to get the lights back on after storms like this. You folks are called in when the weather is at its worst and at all hours, and you've got like a huge to-do list in front of you when these things happen. So thank you for what you do. You keep us all running normally after storms, for those of us who don't have damage, but of course have our power out here. Tommy is asking, what will Carrollton, Kentucky look like during the eclipse? And that's a great question, because I'm about to show you what that will be here in just a moment. Scott on YouTube says, when's the next severe weather day? There is the potential for some stronger storms next week on Thursday. This does not look as concrete as the storms we had this week. So there's some good news there. Brian Good and I were discussing this today. We're not seeing exactly the same signal that we saw for this week's severe weather for next week's system around Thursday or so. However, there is still some potential there. We'll discuss that here in just a moment. Christina says, someone shared video of tornado from near Georgetown, Indiana. Was that proven to be false? I don't think so. I think that was the tornado in Harrison County that I showed you. That was just west of Georgetown there. I don't know a whole lot about that video. I have seen it. It was pretty. It was from a drone. A storm chaser was in the area here. We had several storm chasers, in fact, from across the country who came here for this tornado event. That's how you know it was going to be a big deal, because they were in town here. But I'm not quite sure the exact relationship between that. But there was a tornado that was surveyed in that area. So I know that much. All right. Brandon says, best weather team. Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's get one more comment in here before we keep moving. Lisa, yes, we just answered that question. Buckner, Prospect, those two areas of damage may connect together as a tornado. We're not quite sure yet. Tomorrow, National Weather Service is going to be working on that, and hopefully we can get some answers there. Andre says, I went to high school with him at Manual, found some eclipse glasses. Yes, I am so happy, Andre, you found eclipse glasses. He and I were going back and forth messaging this week, trying to find him a good pair there, and I'm glad Andre found some. That's awesome. Everybody needs a pair of eclipse glasses. Do not use sunglasses. They will hurt your eyes during the eclipse. You must use eclipse glasses, period. All right, let's get to more of the weather, shall we here? Let's talk about this cold air for the weekend. So because the clouds will be clearing out as we head toward Friday night, early Saturday morning, that will allow the temperature to drop. So we've got this cold air overhead now, right? But because the clouds are kind of here, that's insulating us from getting below freezing. But without the clouds, but the same cold air overhead, that is what happens. Temperatures in the 20s early Saturday morning. That's a hard freeze for a good chunk of the area, a light freeze for just about all of us. Louisville gets down to freezing. Make sure you protect your blooms that you might have that you want to save. If you've got tulips that are out, like we have in the Wave Weather Garden here, they may not survive this freeze early Saturday morning. So you might want to cover those up with like burlap sacks or anything just to keep them insulated just a little bit early Saturday morning to keep the frost off of them too here. A freeze watch in effect for all 34 of our counties early Saturday morning. Growing season has begun, so that is a problem. Okay, so let's talk late weekend. So the first part of the weekend is cold start. We get towards 60 in the afternoon on Saturday. It will be dry. There will be sunshine. Not a bad look to the first half of the weekend. The second half of the weekend, we've made some changes today. We've started adding in thunderstorms or thunder showers into the forecast by late in the day on Sunday into Sunday night. I know that's not what you wanted to hear, but unfortunately, this area of low pressure to our west is going to try to send a front through here. And I don't think these are going to be like rock'em sock'em robot thunderstorms here. I think this is more just of a, hey, these are, pretty decent moderate rain. Here's some thunder. Here's some lightning, some gusts of wind, that kind of a situation here. No severe weather threat with this yet here. Now, to our west in Evansville, I could see a marginal risk getting added possibly by the Storm Prediction Center. We'll see how far east that goes. And if this trends to the east, I will say this has been trending a bit faster, which would argue for that. Not the greatest thing you want to hear here. But again, this is not like an outbreak. This is not like earlier this week. This is not even close to that. This is just kind of a thunderstorm chance, and some of these could get gusty. I think we can handle that, right? And again, if you have plans Sunday morning, you're dry, you're fine, you're warm too. So it looks pretty good there. It's Sunday evening into very early Monday morning when things will start to get a little wetter around here. And then, looks like we dry out in time for Monday afternoon. Kind of a big deal, right? Because, of course, the Great American Eclipse is happening. Oh, my gosh. And, the forecast for the Great American Eclipse and, of course, our coverage between 2 and 4 p.m. here on WAVE actually doesn't look bad at all. I mean, we're going to be starting out the day in the mid-50s. We will have some clouds. There will be some light showers, possibly 5, 6, 7 a.m. So if you're leaving your home to go to an eclipse viewing location up north early in the day to get, a good spot, you might encounter some rain. But I don't think you have to worry too much about the rain at this point, just because I think during the afternoon, things are actually going to be clearing out somewhat. And you'll notice the max eclipse here in Louisville, again, this is Louisville we're talking about, at 3:07 p.m., looks to be warm and partly cloudy. We will take partly cloudy. That's not a bad forecast. And even if we do have some high, thin clouds, you can still see the eclipse through it. How are you going to see the eclipse? With eclipse glasses. With sunglasses? No. Eclipse glasses, yes. No welder's helmets, no sunglasses, no squinting. We mean eclipse glasses, those ISO 12312-12 glasses. You'll see those printed on the side of the glasses on the interior usually. It's that designation, ISO 12312-12, I think is it. I may have that number slightly mixed up, but if you see that ISO number, you're probably in good shape, but test them beforehand to make sure that you're ready to go for Monday's eclipse here. So far, so good on the eclipse front here. So let's talk more about the eclipse, shall we? And let's give you a kind of a wider view of what the weather may be like. Now, tomorrow, when we go through these graphics, you'll start to see the clouds move. We'll have higher, what we call temporal resolution. Oh, that's nerd talk, right? We'll have basically more time, or less time, I should say, between the futurecast frames here, and you'll be able to see the clouds move. So a lot more data coming in tomorrow gives you a better sense of what it will look like. But you'll see that on futurecast today, a lot of breaks in the clouds. And where you see the darkening to our west there, let me circle that because that's going to be really confusing. Where you see these dark spots, that's actually clear sky, because that darkness underneath is the totality track, okay? So even those spots are pretty clear, and you'll see all the cloud cover that kind of clears up around southern and central Kentucky. This is looking a whole lot better than it could have been, all right? And there's the moment, 3:07 p.m. I just talked about here, where the shadow of totality will be over a good chunk of our southern Indiana counties, north of Scottsburg here. And again, these may be high, thin clouds even at that. So a lot of the data pointing toward that. If we're going to see cloud cover, be thin and be high, that's not a big deal. You can still see the eclipse through it with your eclipse glasses on. I'm going to say that like 10 times. And you should be able to see it just fine. It'd be okay. Once the eclipse gets out of here, though, we will be tracking more showers, more thunderstorms at times next week. We'll get to that here in just a minute. But I do want to go through where you can see this eclipse. If you are just kind of getting oriented with this, you're like, okay, I've heard about this eclipse for like the last 6 years now. Maybe I actually want to get a plan together. Okay, where are you going to go? Well, you're going to go either to Scottsburg or north of there. Scottsburg's about the farthest south you can be in that totality. If you're planning on not going into totality, know this: it is a completely different experience outside of totality than in that 100% eclipse or totality. It's literally a night and day difference. It will be just like nighttime for like 3 or 4 minutes, and we'll show you where that will be in the zone of totality. Whereas here in Louisville and areas in that 90% eclipse, 90% plus, it'll be like dim. It'll be interesting. It'll be cool, worth seeing, but it's not going to be like it's going to be in totality. All right, I had to put that out there because that's like super, super important, okay? Now, how long is the eclipse going to last? And we'll go over the time that it starts here in just a minute. So this is kind of helping you plan. Where is the length of time going to be the longest if you're going to pick a spot? If you're going to pick a spot that's within, maybe a 2-hour drive of Louisville, Vincennes, Indiana, 4 minutes, 5 seconds. If you want to pick a spot that's a little easier to get to, that is only 3 seconds less, Bloomington, Indiana. If you want to pick a spot that's even closer, my pick would be either Bedford or Seymour. 3 minutes, 42 seconds of that complete darkness in Bedford, 3 minutes, 7 seconds in Seymour. By the way, you can take a screenshot of this. If you're watching this on your TV, you could take a picture, or you could take a screenshot with your phone. You hold those 2 buttons down, it takes a screenshot, saves it to your camera roll. If you want to remember the information that I've presented to you here. So taking screenshots, kind of a hacky way to get that information saved on your phone without having to do too much effort here. Now, what about the times? When does this start? When does this end? Scottsburg between 3:07 and 3:08. Seymour between 3:06 and 3:09 p.m. As you go to the west toward Jasper, it's between 3:03 and 3:07. Bedford, 3:04 to 3:08. North Vernon, 3:06 to 3:09. You get the idea here. These times are really close, but there's a gradient to them. It's a lot earlier to our west and a lot later to our east because the shadow moves from west to east. Makes sense, right? That's intuitive. But you get the idea here. If you're going up toward Indianapolis between 3:06 and 3:09, Bloomington, where IU is going to have this big event in their stadium there with William Shatner, Dr. Mae Jemison. I think Janelle Monáe is performing there. That's like a bucket list sort of event if you're going up there, at least for me. I like all those people. You'll see between 3:04 and 3:08 p.m. The appearance is pretty simple when you're in the zone of totality, right? I mean, it'll be completely dark all around you. You'll be able to see on the horizon, of course, where it is light, and that's the weird part. But when this happens, you'll see the corona of the sun around the moon. So the moon will appear, of course, as that dark disk in front of the sun. You will see Bailey beads, which are kind of like little shimmers of light that are trying to make it around the really the topography of the moon, kind of the craters and the mountains on the moon there, which is kind of cool. You'll see the diamond effect where you get that first little burst of light and that last little burst of light before and after the eclipse. You will feel the temperature drop. The animals are going to go nuts. The birds are going to be confused. Some of them are going to try to go to sleep. It's wild what happens during a total solar eclipse. All right. One thing I want to caution is if you want to take photos of the eclipse, once you get into totality, once it's completely dark, you're safe to take photos. You are safe to look at the sun. The problem is that you will literally start to have problems with both your eyes and your phone the minute that first kind of flash of light when the eclipse is totality is ending happens. So you want to have your eclipse glasses really close by, ready to go, so that when you start to detect things are getting ready to stop, put them on. Whenever you are not in that total darkness, you must be wearing your eclipse glasses, period. All right. Even that little tiny dot of the sun shining through is going to damage your eyes. That is how powerful sunlight is. And just kind of dovetails very well into what I'm about to say here, is that a 99% eclipse, we'll have 99.2% here in Louisville, is not 100. And that will still be a whole lot of sunlight to hurt your eyes, to hurt your camera lens. So make sure you have an appropriate filter for your camera lens. They do sell those online. I know it's a little late for that now, but you can also find some of those in camera shops and things like that. And of course, those eclipse glasses, you'll need those too. We will not get totally dark here in Louisville. Madison, we will not be totally dark. We just answered a question about the latest on the eclipse appearance for Carrollton. Look at Madison. If you're in Carrollton, that's that 99.6%. Again, that's really close to 100. But even that 0.4% is a ton of light, and the sky will look kind of like dim, like dusky outside. It won't be like completely dark like you would have in a total eclipse situation. And of course, that percentage goes down as you move down toward Columbia, 95.1%. That's the lowest in our area, the farthest point away from the zone of totality. So if you can't make it into totality for this eclipse, when can you see one next? 2045, which is a little bit from now. It's 21 years from now, if I can do my math in my head here. You'll have to drive south for that. It's not in our area, but it is within driving distance, so that's good. So if you miss this one, or if for some reason the weather goes haywire and is not good, you will have another chance. Unfortunately, it's 21 years from now. That's a little bit of time. The next one that actually has totality through Louisville will be in the year 2100 something. And unfortunately, I don't think anybody else of us who are currently living will be here during that one. So in Louisville, we don't have a chance to see totality within our lifetime. For a lot of us, though, we can drive south for the next eclipse in 2045 if you're looking that far into the future. Here's a list sort of some of the most popular locations, the times that the eclipse starts, and then in the blue box is how long, and of course, minutes and seconds that the totality will last. This, again, is for the total darkness of totality here. Jasper, French Lick, Salem, Seymour, Scottsburg on your screen now. If you want to take a screenshot with your phone, or if you want to take a picture, if you're watching it on a big monitor or a TV, that's a great idea, just so you know the times and the places that you want to be. Our coverage here on Wave will be, of course, up from French Lick, up from Seymour. We'll be here in Louisville. We're going to be in a lot of spots, and we'll have the power of the entire Gray television station network. We have a ton of TV stations, dozens and dozens all across the country, and we're going to use the power of those stations and their live cameras in the path of the eclipse, because we have a ton of stations in the path of totality too, to show you what the eclipse looks like even before it gets here. So it's going to be kind of cool to follow it along from Texas all the way to Maine, and we're right in the middle here across Wave country. All right. One more weather item here before we get to today's Hokey Weather Fact, your 10-day, and we'll address your questions too. We do have that system to watch next week. This one we need to keep an eye on. I have not plotted the area of low pressure on this one today just because it has been all over the place on the models. But what I'm going to do is draw that L for that low right there. And that is going to be near Jonesboro, Arkansas at noon on Thursday. This area of low pressure here needs to be watched like a hawk, because this time of year with this kind of wind energy and this kind of low track, that's something we want to watch. Notice that low track goes from basically near Jonesboro up towards central Indiana and north and eastward toward Detroit here. That is not a great low track, because you would have severe weather potential, especially like possibly in this zone right here. We will see how this trends. That low pressure position has been dancing around the models like crazy. Sometimes it's down here, sometimes it's over here, sometimes it's right here. It is not set in stone. So we're not ready to put an alert day on this because the data is way too inconclusive. We need to get that low track down and figure out what kind of environment we'll have for instability before we start to talk about alert day for Thursday. So we are not there yet, and that's good news. We don't want to, of course, have another sort of severe weather episode like we had this week. I don't think this one will be exactly like that. That's something to help you sleep tonight. All right. This is not that huge a deal just yet. Let's take it one step at a time, and we will cross that bridge when we get a little closer to this event in terms of what it may bring us. We just don't have a whole lot of answers. And I will say today, some of the, you're going to hate this word, some of the, artificial intelligence, AI, severe weather forecasting, was kind of paring this system down just a little bit compared to yesterday in how it thought the severe weather would play out. So that's some good news too. Just another piece of data, another nugget of data that's like, hey, slow your roll here. This might not be as bad as what it could be, but we'll still keep an eye on this. We're just giving you the earliest alert so you know what, of course, could happen next week. We don't have the answers yet, but we do have some ideas at least. All right, speaking of ideas, we do have a brand new Hokey Weather Fact for today. I record Hokey Weather Fact videos just about every Thursday afternoon and put them up on our Wave Now app that you can see on your smart TV, and it's also in the Wave Weather app that you can get for your phone and your iPad here. And these videos go over the Hokey Weather Facts that I have for the week. I usually have two, but this week I have one just because of all the severe weather that happened on Tuesday when I typically do one. So without further ado, here's a look at this week's Hokey Weather Fact. Hey, everybody, it's Wave Storm Tracking Team Meteorologist Ryan Hoke here with Hokey Weather Facts for April 4th of 2024. We've got one for you this week coming off of a very busy weather week with multiple confirmed tornadoes here in wave country. And, of course, on the heels of the 1974 tornado anniversary, the 50th anniversary here, we're talking about the original Fujita scale. Of course, now these days, we have the enhanced Fujita scale, goes from EF0 to EF5, and that enhanced part was added in 2007. But the original Fujita scale, conceived by Dr. Ted Fujita back in the 1970s, originally went from F0 to F12. He never really intended for the F scale to go past F5, but he did have an F6, or kind of an inconceivable tornado. But here's the deal. There were two tornadoes that did receive this F6 rating. One of them was the Xenia, Ohio tornado back on April 3rd, 1974. And of course, the other tornado happened in Texas in 1970. Both of those tornadoes were later downgraded to an F5 when they kind of settled on the F0 to F5 designation for tornadoes that later became EF0 to EF5 that we see today. A little bit of behind the scenes history on the Fujita scale here just after the 50th anniversary of the 1974 tornado outbreak. I'm meteorologist Ryan Hoke. And I'm meteorologist Ryan Hoke. Kind of meta to have me twice, right? But yeah, that was your Hokey weather fact for the week there. Interesting little tidbit of information. I didn't realize there was actually two F6 tornadoes that were rated and that later got downgraded like that. That's something I learned just this year after doing, meteorology for as long as I have, 10 plus years now. All right, let's get back into it here with some of your questions. And of course, the 10-day. I'm going to put the 10-day up here on the screen so you can see it while we are answering some of those questions here. And there it is. If you haven't seen our new graphics yet, if you're still just kind of new to us here within the last couple of weeks here, of course, we have a brand new 10-day earliest alert, and it shows you kind of what the sky condition is going to be for each day. So it's a little easier to like visually conceptualize what the weather will look like on a certain day. And it makes it easier to find the sunny days like Saturday, 2 Saturdays in a row, and Sunday, next Sunday there. And then the stormy days like Sunday, Wednesday, and Thursday there that you see in our forecast. Kind of cool, right? Okay, so now that the 10 days up, I want to go through some of your comments. If you've got questions, comments, you can ask them in either the YouTube, Facebook, or X comments here, and it will come right into my system and I can display them on screen. If you're watching us on Wave Weather now on your smart TV, you won't be able to see these at the bottom of the screen, but I'll read them for you. It's just kind of a technical issue that we have there with that. Lisa says, thanks to all your team for what you do to keep us safe and informed. I appreciate you, Lisa, for trusting us. We're not here without you guys. So thank you for trusting us. Thank you for your viewership. It really does help us out here to, continue to provide the service that we do. Brandon Hobson, you have the best weather graphics ever. Well, thank you. And he is ready for Derby today, by the way. Is 1 month until the Kentucky Derby. This has been a busy front end of the year here. So we have had, of course, our new weather graphics just came out here. We've got the April 3rd, 1974 anniversary, the 50th anniversary that happened this week. Next week is the solar eclipse. We have the Kentucky Derby and all the Derby festival events coming up over the next month or so. We've got the PGA Championship in town. That's a huge deal as well. I mean, it's just like one thing after another. I swear, once we get to about June around here, I think everybody's going to go, okay, that's enough events. Like, it's been so busy around here. But I'll tell you what, mixing in a little severe weather with all that just makes it all that much more interesting, that's for sure, and not in a good way here. Ashley says, I don't want to find traffic. What is the time for E-Town? I have a little one. We just went over some of those eclipse times there. Because E-Town is due south of Louisville, that maximum eclipse will be around 3:07 p.m., just like it is here in the city. The reason I didn't put the exact times on there is because E-Town won't be seeing that total eclipse there. So it kind of just gradually gets dim and then gradually gets lighter again. And there's just kind of like the center point around 3:07 where it will be the dimmest. But 5 minutes after and 5 minutes before that, you won't notice a whole lot of difference there because we'll still have enough sunlight to light up the sky there. Let's see here. Chase says, Chase is in Louisville. He was playing like he was in New York, but he is in Louisville here. Ha ha ha. That's funny. He's on YouTube there. Hello, Chase. Thanks for viewing this evening. Scott is in St. Matthews. Nice to see you out there this evening in YouTube land. Let's see. Brandon's like, oh no, I missed it. Did you go over Thursday of next week? Yes, we did go over Thursday of next week. By the way, this video will be available as a recording if you're watching us there on X here shortly once the broadcast is over. So you'll be able to scrub back through it. But just to say real quick about Thursday, again, there's this area of low pressure trying to move through. We'll see what happens with it. If it takes a more southerly track, we get some rain, but not a huge deal. Storm-wise, if it takes a northerly track, kind of like this model run from the European model does right here, where it goes basically from Jonesboro up toward near Detroit, that could cause us some severe weather issues, but we'll see. It's too early to say. We don't have an alert day out for it just yet, just because there's too much uncertainty, and we want to, kind of give this system some more room to breathe before we start pinning things to it, because it's just not all the way cooked there just yet. Dave and Jean say, thank you for all the Wave team and your coverage of the tornadoes on Tuesday. I appreciate you, Dave and Jean. Thank you for watching. Let's see. Darlene says, are these going to be more after 3 or before? And you're talking about the storms there on Thursday, and we really don't have a grasp on the timing of those just yet, so I can't answer that, unfortunately. Darren says, watching from Jeffersonville. And again, for you, Darren, if you're just joining us here, this will be available as a recording on our social media platforms like Facebook, YouTube, and, of course, X as well for all of those folks who want to rewatch this evening. And, of course, we're also live on Wave Weather Now, our 24/7 weather live stream. It's the only one in the Louisville area because we're nerds like that. And we just want to make sure that you always have a place you can go to watch a live stream when the weather's kind of getting iffy, and we will pop on there live, much like we're doing now. We will do during, of course, severe weather, live from our studio, simulcasting it on there as well as on TV, just so you know how things work on that side of things. And with that, we're at the end of the comments. We've still got 493 people watching on our social media platforms. I really appreciate you sticking with us, even through Thursday here. I know we have had just everything you can throw at us in terms of weather this week. We've had snow, graupel, showers, tornadoes. It's been a little nutty. So we thank you for sticking with us all through that, and for continuing to watch sort of the aftermath and sort of picking up the pieces with us here as we figure out what on earth happened tornado-wise with the ratings, the wind speeds, and all of that. Let's see. We've got a user here from J-Town. Hi, Ryan. You're my go-to channel. Thank you for watching us. We really appreciate that. Olivia Yates says, my sister overcame her fear of storms thanks to Waves coverage that kept us updated. I really appreciate that. Scott says, I've tried to create a weather forecast on Canva. I try to make it like yours. Yes, it is. It takes years of experience to do the graphic design necessary to make the stuff that we put on TV. That's tough. These are all new graphics that you've seen over the last couple of weeks. It's taken us months to put that stuff together, just so you know kind of the behind the scenes of what went into that. All right, I'm going to stop yapping. It's been about 30-ish minutes here. We really appreciate all of you folks who have been watching this evening. I will see you back here on, of course, Wave Television at 7 p.m. tomorrow. Kevin Harned will be the guy sitting in this little box right here tomorrow evening at some point between 8:15, 8:30. You'll see a push alert on the Wave Weather app for when you need to start viewing that. If you don't have it, the Wave Weather app is free in your app store, and it is the #1 weather app in the Louisville area. We've prided ourselves on that for years and years, and it continues to this day because we put our own forecast in there. It's not some AI-generated computer thing. All right, guys, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. I'm Wave Storm Tracking Team Meteorologist Ryan Hoke. Hope you have a fantastic evening, and we will see you back here on the television side of things tonight on Wave News at 11. Good night, everybody.